Chapter 6 in your textbook is all about listening. Now, we might look at a chapter like this one and say, what do I really need to learn about listening? I mean, I've been doing it my whole life. Don't I already know how to do it? Well, the answer to that is actually pretty complex. Listening is a very highly involved skill. We're going to learn just a little bit about it here in this PowerPoint, or explain everything if you want to be technical on the software. But if you look at the chart that I have right here, it shows what is a really commonly reported statistic, that we spend about 70% of our awake time actually communicating with other people, and only 30% of the time not communicating. And of all of the skills that we use to communicate, 45% of our time is spent listening, meaning that we spend more time listening than any other activity. And yet, statistically, it's been shown that we retain only 25 to 50% of what we hear, which means that we're not very good listeners, even though we're listening a lot. But there's a lot of value to being an excellent listener. It can make us, better at retaining information, which can be useful not only at school, where I'm trying to learn lots of concepts and I'm trying to make sure that I can make the best grades that I can make, but it also would be very highly effective skill in the workplace. Person who gives the boss what they wanted in the way that they asked for it is probably going to get noticed and might stand out and get those promotions and those types of things. And then also in our relationships, people who have partners who listen effectively and can meet their needs have partners who are more satisfied with their relationships. So it's a very valuable and important skill, and something we can all learn a great deal about. In fact, there are 3 credit hour classes at the college level called listening. That's how much research and information actually exists on the subject. So what I'm going to do is just a brief introduction. We'll start with the concept of listening itself, and we're just going to, at this point, distinguish between listening and hearing. Hearing is the thing that our ears just automatically do. We pick up sounds. You heard me snapping my fingers there, right? It's not that you're trying to make sense of it in any way whatsoever. We have sounds going on all around us. If you paused and just listened to what was going on, or tried to hear what was going on around your house, you would hear, electronic noises, possibly an air conditioner or a heat unit running, depending on what temperature it is at the moment. But listening is much more involved. It's an active process, and it requires us to make some mental decisions. We have to decide that we're going to try to pay attention. We have to attempt to understand what it is that the person is trying to say. And that can be challenging, right? Because sometimes people aren't very clear. We have to then also attempt to remember what that person said. And then finally, we also have to respond. When we're doing all 4 of those things, we're actually engaged in active listening. So it takes a lot of mental effort and attention, and sometimes we think just showing up is the biggest part of the battle and that we've kind of won, but in reality, we don't really win as listeners unless we're engaged in all 4 of those activities. We've made a choice to block out all the distractions, we're going to pay attention, we're going to try to understand, we're going to work to remember, and we're going to respond appropriately and make sure that the person on the other end knows that we value what it is that they have to say. All right, this is all I'm going to cover for now. There's plenty of content in this folder. Make sure that you remember from reading and from studying the concepts as I have them in the folder what some of the common barriers are to effective listening, and then also focus on ways that you can work to improve your listening over the course of time.